Hi, this is John Solari, the Method Actor Speaks, and I'm here with a very special guest, a lifetime member of the Actors Studio. It's been a few years that I've been trying to get you back on the show. We have Captain Carlen, who, as I said, is a lifetime member, acting coach, and you're having a fantastic year this year.
I am.
So let's tell her, I have a few questions, but I want to know a little bit about you, so the audience knows who you are, Captain.
Okay.
Why did you become an actor, and where are you from?
Well, I was born in.
Yeah,
I was born in Cookeville, Tennessee.
Right.
I was born in Tennessee, and that was the last thing on my mind about being an actress or an actor. I didn't even really know what one was. But what happened was that I actually, just thinking about that now, I went to Florida to school, to the University of Tampa. And at that time, Burt Reynolds was doing something. I don't know what it could it have been, because this is this was a while ago.
Well,
he could have been doing Deliverance or something. Could he
could
be
have
doing
been,
it?
yeah.
And
With the Smokey and the Bandits.
yeah, something really a long time ago. And anyway, he had scouts out there looking for girls for, I think it was Deliverance, for like nude scenes in the swamp or something. And I was studying the University of South Florida education to be a teacher. And I had no desire to be an actress, and I'd never really done anything. And they approached me on the campus. And would you want to meet Bert and do this and that? I went, no, absolutely not. And so that was kind of my first introduction to acting, which was always no.
No.
My answer to acting was always no, I don't want to. It scared me. Acting scared me. And then I ended up, from a series of events, I ended up in New York City, and I was modeling. I modeled for Giorgio Santangelo. I was his bathing suit model. And when I was doing that, Giorgio said to me, I think you should be an actress. And I went, why? And he said, because you always are so animated, and you're always the only model I have that's talking. And Janice Dickinson was on the runways with me then, and he said, she says you should just shut up. You know what I mean?
Well, because she wanted to talk, right?
She wanted to talk. So anyway, I thought, well, okay, so I don't know, was it Backstage? Was that what it was called back then?
Back in the Backstage and Show Business are the two magazines.
Yeah, the magazines, the actor magazine. Anyway, I looked in that magazine, and I saw that there was this private acting coach, and you could go to his apartment in that building, where actors are, like 42nd Street.
Right, yeah.
And you could
Manhattan
go there.
Plaza.
Yeah, Manhattan Plaza, and you could go there. Bill was his first name, I remember, and Bill Brooks. And you go to his apartment, he had a big grand piano, and you saw he had the view of the city, and you would do monologues. And I don't know, I did that for a long time. And then he said, you need to go to an acting class. And I went, oh no, I'm not going to act with anyone. I just want to do monologues. So, I really didn't have a clue. Anyway, he suggested you've got to go to Bill Hickey. Remember Bill Hickey? And Uta Hagen. And
HB Studios.
HB Studio. And so I started with Bill Hickey, and I studied with Deborah Headwall, and these were wonderful teachers. And then they said, well, now you have to audition for Uta Hagen. No, I don't want to. My whole career has been no. And so anyway, a series of events. This other girl in the class, she wanted to too. But I wanted to audition for Actors Studio back in that day. But she was, no, we're going to go for Miss Hagen. We've got to work with her. And anyway, so I did. We auditioned for her, and here's the funny part. I never would have gotten in with her, ever, if I hadn't made a mistake. So what happened was, the scene was B.B. Fenstermaker. I remember that. And I was supposed to bring in flowers. We'd rehearsed this over and over that I had flowers. I forgot them that day. I'd always had real flowers, but I looked around behind the stage, and I saw some, like plastic flowers.
Right.
And I grabbed them full of dust, you know what I mean? It didn't matter. I was like, oh God. And then it really, just threw me for a loop. And anyway, I had those little plastic flowers, and I went in, and Amy Lemon was her name, the actress, and she was much younger than I was, like 10 or 15 years younger. Anyway, she opened the door to the little door they had, stage thing, and she looked at those flowers, and she just threw them on the ground. And I started crying from some guttural
Right.
place. Like, you know, I was just destroyed
Mm-hmm.
that she didn't want my flowers, and I was in character.
Wow.
And I'm crying. I know that's why Miss Hagen thought I was a good actress. She probably thought I planned all that. I had some, like, you know, emotional memory going or some personalization. Truly, I was just upset that Amy didn't like the
Or
flowers.
could she have been impressed that you, as an actor, when something went wrong, you went with it?
Maybe. That's a good way to look at it.
Really, I mean,
Really, maybe.
because that's my first reaction when you, if I was watching somebody and I knew what the scene was and I saw, well, that's not in this scene. Why is she doing? Oh, wow. Because the audience doesn't know that why you're doing that.
That's true, but I was so, I didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I always worked off my instincts, off the seat of my pants. And I've always had some magical ability to believe whatever it is I'm doing. If I'm playing a murderer, I believe I am. If I'm a queen, or if I'm, you know, some
Why do you
real-
think that is?
I think that that's part of what talent is called. I'm not sure what talent is because I teach acting, as you know, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but there's some gift that we're given that can make us, it's imagination. You know, I believe that it really has to do with imagination and instincts, because you can meet actors that I am in love with that have no training, that haven't learned any method or haven't learned anything.
Uh-huh.
And you believe them. You watch them and you believe them. So I think that's you're born with that gift, like you're born to sing, or you're born to write, or you're born with something. And that make-believe, I was always the little girl, you know, Cookville,
Right.
playing,
No.
you know, flowers, you know, running around being the magic flower, and then I would make everybody different things. And I was always in that kind of creation, you know, creating that kind of thing. Even now, when I go up for things, and when the work I've done this year, like you said, has been a big year, they have been, John, off the map of different characters. I mean, I'm a character actress, I always have been, but they've been crazy. Like, I just went to upstate New York with Justin Lerner's film called The Automatic Hate, be out in 2015 or something like that, and this with Richard Schiff and Ricky Jay and Joseph Cross and all these fabulous actors, and I play a mother.
Yeah.
You know, you always call me mother.
I always call you mother.
And
Not because you're a mother, but because your knowledge, and you have so much knowledge about acting. I mean, you really know, so that's one of the reasons why I called you mother.
is that what?
Yeah, because of your knowledge.
Oh, I thought you called me mother for some other reason. But anyway, so I play a mother, a hippie mother, right? And in a very interesting, dramatic role. And then the director said to me, well, we were getting ready for the wardrobe, talking about all of that, and we had this, you know, creative discussion, and I said, you know, I think she's a painter. He said, you do? I said, yes. Why else would I be out? And I went on and on and on about that. And when I showed up on the set, he had the most beautiful easel and this painting that I thought, oh my, I wish I could paint that well. And it was a beautiful painting of a local artist, Benoni onto New York. And then he, you know, embraced that idea that I had, that creative idea. And the minute I saw that and saw the garden, I said, I think you know, they built this garden for me. I thought, oh, I know how to do this. And the minute I knew how to do it, I just fell into it, and I believed I was that person. I mean, there's been times that it's been hard to get out of those characters sometimes. I miss them.
Really? That happens to you?
This year, yeah, because I had so many this year. I've never worked as much as I did this year. I think I finally maybe landed in my body, or finally am not scared, you know? Because I think most of my career has been scared. That's why I kind of went behind the scenes and did a lot of coaching. I would go into auditions, and inside of me would think, oh, that girl out in the lobby, she's so much better. Look at her. I never really went in like, you know, go in strong, own the room. I was like, there was always that little thing missing, but I don't know if it's age or if it's just doing it for so long, I'm finally, and Mark Rydell told me, he said, honey, you know what you're doing. Just go in there and do it. And Marty and all of them from the studio.
I was going to say, do you think being, you know, at the studio has helped you?
Oh, absolutely, because, you know, I've only been there for 10 years. That's not a long time,
Yeah.
you know, for how old I am. But since I've been there, the encouragement they gave me and the support they gave me and getting up and doing parts that I wouldn't normally do, I think that gave me, gave me confidence, didn't it?
It did. Well, that's what I explained that a few times, excuse me, on the show, that's what the studio is really about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about doing what you wouldn't be cast as,
Necessarily.
so that you
Yes.
can, further. I wanted to ask you a few questions about.
Okay.
Well, before that, when you said you were a model and all this, not a leading lady. I met you when I was doing The Messenger of Death with Charles Bronson.
That's right.
And I knew you were a leading lady then. I never forget you with those. You had brown leather pants.
Look at me, I have a black leather skirt on. That's funny. I don't stop, do I?
And I remember that. Wow. I mean, you gave me. It helped my character.
We went to the set.
Yes,
we went
that's
down
what I'm
to
saying.
that set. Yeah, we met him. I mean, I met him. You took me down to meet him,
To
and
meet Charles Bronson. Yes.
yeah, that was
But,
that was a big time for me. You know, it's funny, John, because in the '80s, that was probably the '80s.
87.
The '80s were a really big year for me too. I was working a lot, doing a lot of guest stars, doing movies, doing that, and then I had a baby. I got married
Right.
to Biff Johnson, who said to say hi.
Hello, Biff.
Hello, Biff. And we have this beautiful daughter who's almost 20 now.
Oh.
Can you believe it? Incredible straight A student. But she doesn't just get A's, she gets hundreds. If it's a test and you're supposed to get 100, she gets 105. I mean, she's just incredible girl. She wants to be a producer, like her daddy. And anyway, so when I had her, my life turned around in a different direction. That was 1994. The minute I had her, I didn't want to act anymore. It was so bizarre, because you're asking me about at the beginning about what is that thing in us.
Right.
I don't know. It's some kind of creation thing, because once she was created, all I wanted to do was be her mommy. I took her to Mommy and Me, we did all those things. I never wanted to act. People would ask me, and I go, no, I don't want to do it. And I really didn't do it. That's why I coached very heavily back then. And then, I don't know, I think it was, when I auditioned for the studio 10 years ago, I needed a place to do my thing. It was like hurting inside of me, that if I couldn't act, I didn't know what I was going to do. I don't mean act on television and film. I mean act. I mean do a scene, do something that means something for my own soul. So when I got in there, that kind of led to my career taking off again. So what did I have, a career in the 80s and I have a career in the, what is it now?
Well,
2014?
2014. Yeah, but you had a career, and you have a career as a mother. But more important is you were. I always recommend you and Salome Jens as acting coaches, because I think you two are the best. And
Do you think that's because we're real? That we understand the work, or that?
Well, whatever it is, I mean, you know what it is. I mean, when I listen to you, I know it's coming from a place of real, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think Salome, actually, I think she's better than I am, but honestly, but
Well, I would put
I
Salome
love
number
Salome.
one.
She's, she's to me a little goddess
She
of
is.
acting, and she also really interprets all that material so well. I'm a very contemporary coach. I am in the trenches right now. I am out there auditioning. I just did Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Andy Samberg show. He's up for a Golden Glove for it. So is Andre, that's in the show. But I'm in there. I just did the Mindy project. I'm like so current. Whereas Salome really knows the classics, and I'm like out there doing that thing, sitting in those rooms with all those people, auditioning and getting these jobs. I don't even know how you get them. I really don't. But I do know one thing: you got to have a point of view. If you don't have a point of view,
What is that? What's your point of view?
well, it depends on what it is. If I'm going to play a prisoner, like I did on the Mindy Project with Beth Grant, who's a girlfriend of mine, which we
Wonderful character actor.
great character actress, and we didn't even know that I was up for something that the scene was gonna be about, and she's just become a regular on that show. Anyway, I went up for this prison lady, this really, tough, and the whole thing underneath it was that I knew Beth, and Beth wasn't admitting that she knew me, and I'm like, hey, what's up here? You know what I mean? It was that kind of thing, and that that point of view of how I was going to do that woman, I slicked my hair back. I wore clothes that made me feel like that. I didn't dress up like this and try to be that woman. You know, I've always been
Did you
like
make
that.
her gay or?
Yeah, made her gay, made her a big bull dyke, you know what I mean, kind of gal.
Yeah.
And, you know, and like, you know, so that was that work. And then the thing with Andy and all of them on the Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I play this mom from Brooklyn, you know, who's got Donnie, you know, what did Donnie do? He's always screwing up, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it was like this angry mom is at Thanksgiving. So my point of view when I go in for the audition is strong. It's like, but as I was saying before that I used to be scared, I'm fearless now. When I go in, I'm like, you know, it's like bigger than life. And when I went on the set and when I did it in rehearsal, I thought, they're going to come over and tell me to stop that. You know, I was waiting, and then the director started walking towards me, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to pull it down? Like, I'm sure that was too much. And he went, no, 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 we love it. We love it. Just keep doing what you're doing, And that, I think, is finally, I still have that little girl in me that's like, ooh, that's maybe too much, you know, but I think that now is the time to just do my thing, you know?
That little girl in you and the little boy, that's what acting is about, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Really?
Make believe.
Make believe.
Make believe. So I really believe, so what I did there, my point of view, was Frances, my friend Frances. And she is just, I love her, because what she says to me all the time, she says, oh my goodness, someone's calling us.
Let me, go ahead, keep talking.
Okay.
Hold it. Keep talking, let me just answer, let me
I'm
just.
continuing to talk as you answer the phone.
Yeah, so this
It's
thing
kind of like
real.
a real, kind of little talk show.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so Frances, what I love about Frances, I guess I should just talk to the camera. Since he's not here anymore. You notice that he's not here? Here he comes. Okay, there he is.
That's why it's unscripted, the show.
No kidding.
And we don't edit.
Okay,
And
now-
I forgot to turn, but go
Okay,
ahead,
wait a
back.
minute. So Frances always says.
Are you talking about
thing-
Francis Fisher?
No,
No,
you don't
okay.
know this Frances.
Oh,
And
okay.
Frances always says, I mean, I'm just saying. She's always like, I'm just saying. You know, I mean, you know, and no matter what, she's ready to, you know, knock your head off. So when I went in there for the audition, my take on her, you know how sometimes Lou Antonio, for example, in a class on a Wednesday over at the studio, he'll say, step into the body of someone, step into some. I would just step into Frances to do that audition. I walked in there, I was like, you know, I'm just saying, you know, I already had that thing. I just
Right.
became that. And that's, to me, the most fun.
I like that, step into that body.
Step into that body.
Yeah.
Like, what body would you step? Now, that doesn't always work, and you don't always have to do that. It's just something that I really need. When you need it, you need it,
You
especially
need-
with
right, when you
accents
need-
and stuff. Because, I don't know, I've
I
never...
did that. It's amazing. When I was doing Ruby, about Jack
yeah.
Ruby,
Oh, yeah.
with Danny Aiello, and I had a scene where I had to walk across the knoll, because I was the guy behind the knoll when I shoot Kennedy. I was thinking of Henry Silva
Yeah,
when as mother in a hat full of rain, the way he used to walk,
yeah.
the way he walked, and so I stepped into his body.
And that is a point of view.
Oh, right, and I
That's
walked.
your point of view.
Because I didn't know how to walk across, but I said, oh, Henry Silva had that great walk.
I know.
He did.
You know, I remember Marty saying one time, Marty Landau saying, you know, you've always got to be thinking, you know, especially in film, you know, and Mark says that to me a lot, you know. I called him and told him I was going to go do that movie, Automatic 8, and he said, okay, you don't have to do too much. And I went, no? He went, no, don't do too much, just think, just think. And I thought, oh, because, you know, when we get on the stage, we're just like, you know, it can be bigger, it can be, you know, it can have more energy. And I mean, it's a different kind of energy for the film. And I love that. See, I like all the mediums. I love it. I love television. It's so fun. It's kind of like a play. Those sitcoms are like a play. Then the dramas are kind of like a movie. And then the stage is the stage. I mean, I did this great
But now you
one.
have web too, web
Yeah.
series.
Oh, I just did this great little series. It's called Fallout Red Star, something like that. And it was like this mother, another mother, her daughter was taken off. It was like some in the future. And oh, it was such a wonderful project with these young, fat, we were out in the middle of nowhere. And I pulled up in my car, I mean, out in the Mojave Desert. And I looked around, I thought, well, there'll be a little honey wagon.
Yeah.
Tell them what a honey wagon is. And
Yeah.
It's a little box just
Little
live
box,
in.
you know, with
You live in the little box. It's got usually doesn't have a bathroom.
about
the
the
bathroom
size
should,
of yeah, about
about
the
the
size
size
of a
of us,
bedroom.
right here. And I thought, oh, where's the honey wagon? You know, I'm all excited. There is no honey wagon.
No.
There's nothing. We're just out in the middle. There was one little tent that the wind was blowing it down, and I thought, oh, I got out and I went over to the boys, all young. They're all in their 20s, making these webisodes and all this stuff, and they're very successful. These guys, Fallout and Nuka Cola or whatever it all is. Anyway, so I go over there and I go, so I guess I should just wait in my car. And they said, good idea. Because the wind is like blowing my car like that. But I didn't care, John, because see, I don't care. I just want to do it. I just want to do the work. I want to create that character. That character was great. She was wonderful. I think I might have to bring all this and let you see it, all this stuff I've been doing.
I would love to see, but I want to ask you now, we're talking a little bit about that, and I was listening to about rehearsal.
Yeah.
Now, when we think of rehearsal, you know, for theater.
Yeah.
So when you're rehearsing,
By myself
well,
or with the director?
well, I guess with a partner or whatever. I mean, I guess all three. You know,
So different
by
every
yourself,
one of them.
a
Yeah.
director, and your scene partner. What do you do in the beginning? How do you go about rehearsing? What is
Well-
your process, if we could find out a little bit
Okay.
about that?
Well, there's a different process for everyone.
Right.
So let's take this interesting process that's going on
I
now.
need you
This is the rehearsal
to speak up a little bit more.
by yourself, the rehearsal. So the rehearsal by yourself is interesting. Let's say you're doing a film and you're going to show up on the set and you're not going to get to rehearse with that person. So I create that person. I maybe put a pillow over here or, you know, a chair, and I make that person be in that chair. But I learned something from a man, a teacher named Harold Guskin. Do you know who Harold Guskin is?
Not really.
He's from New York, and he was the coach who, with Glenn Close, he helped a lot of people. And his technique, I forget, it's called stop acting or something, it's really great. He actually has the other person saying more than you say. You never, say my line is, you know, get out of here, you know, get out of the
Right.
house. I don't get to say any more than my line, but that person has a line of, what are you doing in here? Then I get to go on with his lines, like, what are you doing in here? I told you you can't come here anymore. I'm not going to do this with you anymore. You know, and that person talks. I make that person talk so that I'm responding to that person. So that I'm not having to invite, you know, a girlfriend over or a guy over to run lines with me because they're not going to be in the scene with me anyway.
Right. That's a great, yeah.
You know,
I like
it's
that.
it's a great thing, but it's a long process to kind of learn. Marty Landau never says the other words. You know, he never says the words out loud. Did you know that in rehearsal? He told me that. He never says his words out loud until he's on the set. I don't know if he does that in plays, but he does it in a movie. He doesn't ever say them out loud. And Anthony Hopkins says them 150 times. So, you know, it just depends on the project.
What works for you, yes.
What works for you, and everything is different because you're creating something different each time. Now, when you're rehearsing, I love to rehearse, but the ability to do that when you're working on a television show, that doesn't really happen.
Doesn't really happen.
No,
That's what I mean.
No, it doesn't really happen. So I do the Harold Guskin way because I rehearse it with myself so that I'm so familiar with it that, it's just like saying Catherine Carlen. That's my name. I know that material so well that no matter what happens on the set or what happens with an actor or if he looks at me funny, I am solid in what I'm saying. I say it a lot. I say it, but I don't improv my part. I improv the other person so that I'm always responding to that person. Does that make sense to you?
Well, yes, it makes sense, and because you have to. Isn't that what it's about?
Yes, it is absolutely about that other person. Everything is about that other person, whoever you're doing it with. Even if you're doing something by yourself and you're in your house and you're, in a true monologue,
Right.
you're trying to figure out something. Usually you're trying to figure out, like, why did he do that to me? I don't know what. So you're talking, you know what I'm saying? You're talking to another person. Always you're
Always,
talking.
yes.
So it's always about the other person, but a lot
Or
of times.
something.
Yeah, or something.
It's never about you.
No, it really isn't. And when it is, you're in trouble.
Oh, good.
You know
Why
what
is
I'm
that?
saying?
Why is that?
Because then you start to be self-conscious. you start to worry about how you sound, you start to hear yourself. That's a real problem, hearing yourself, because it's taking you out of the moment. I mean, like, what is this moment right now? You know, I've driven over here, we're here doing this, talking about acting. My favorite thing in life is acting. So I'm going to talk about acting. I know you love acting. I know you respect the craft. I'm not thinking about, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't be sitting this way. Maybe my arm should be this way. You know, maybe I should have done my hair.
That's very Uta Hagen.
It is very Uta Hagen. Uta Hagen.
A Challenge to the Actor, her second book.
I loved her second book, but I love, you know, we were there with her first book,
Right, so
you know,
I'm
the
saying,
80s. You know, we were kind of like the guinea pigs of that book. But we used to have, when you knew someone studied with Uta, is they had a suitcase full of props and clothes and costumes, rolling them down the road in New York City and, you know, Bank Street.
Bank
You
Street,
knew,
the village.
yeah, you knew that you studied with Hagen then, because she loved it if you brought it all in. I brought in the Oriental rug once. I brought in the stationary bicycle. I brought in the entire apartment to do this one exercise, which it was a wonderful exercise she has in those books. They're still wonderful to do.
Yeah.
This one
The
was,
trouble is, actors get it, and they read it once, and then they put it away on the shelf, so
Well-
people can see that they have it instead of using it. When I was teaching in Cleveland, I had, before the session would start, we would sit around and read it every week. I'd had the students read it
Oh,
before
that
we
was a
got
good
into it.
idea. Oh, that was a very good idea. I've taught classes before and workshops. I went to Wales and taught acting. I went to Germany and taught acting. I've been in a lot of places teaching acting. And I noticed that I always do those exercises. This is one of the first things I do. It was very similar to Lee Strasberg's Private Moment, is the object exercise, where you're just in your apartment or in your home and, you know, you're just living life, you know, coming in with the mail. It was all about being private in public. It was like being on that stage and learning how to be private in public. And I think that's where the core comes of when I said, you know, I was scared and now I'm not. I think it was finally realizing that the choices are so vast now. There's so many people because of the internet, because of the way casting is done these days. When they have something comes out for a part, I'm not exaggerating, 2,000 people are submitted for that part. 2,000. And the process of how they go through it with the little thumbnail pictures of the people, it's not 8x10s anymore, you know that,
Yeah.
where they have them with messengers sending them in piles on the floor. Now it's these little post stamps with people just flip through the computer. Okay, I'll see her, I'll see. That is like a whole nother way of getting in there. But when you get in that door of those places, of things you want to do, you've got to have some kind of craft that you can put it all together so that it, you know, it's like they always say, if you need it, you need it. If you don't need it, you don't need it. Sometimes the part is just, you know, talking to you, speaking to you, you know how to do it. Other times you're like, ooh, I don't
But the
know
trouble
about
is, you
that.
will need it at times.
Always.
That's why it's so important to study.
I have never not needed it at some point. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even the relaxation, the other day working on the set, I remember sitting in the chair and really just taking deep breaths and really relaxing my body fully and getting into my body again. Because, you know, you start to get spin out, you know, and then you can't do it anymore. But I don't know. It's kind of like this crazy thing we do.
It
you know?
is, the whole thing.
It's a crazy thing.
I'm gonna do part 2. We're gonna stop here and do part 2.
Oh, really?
Because
You have 2 parts?
Yeah, well, because we're running out of time.
Oh.
It stops at 30. But because I really want to talk about the difference in. Well, one of the reasons why, before this runs out, why I do this show is because casting directors, like you say now today, they look at little pictures. They have no idea who you are.
Right.
That's the idea of my doing this show, is so that people out there can see who you are.
Oh dear.
Well, you know, whether it's trouble or not, but we'll be back soon. And thank you, Captain Carlen, lifetime member of the Actors Studio.